take a walk with me, not like you used to do. Do something different and put yourself in other people's shoes. Open up your mind and open up your eyes and change your direction, change your perspective.
Paging Neil Matthews. Paging Neil Matthews. We have a new patient for X-ray. Hello, I have paged our host, Neil Matthews. He will be right with you. In the meantime, please find a seat, take a deep breath, and relax. Welcome to Season 19 of Other People's Shoes, called X-Ray. We're exploring what we call sight beyond sight, taking a deep look into the unseen damage and aspects of people's lives. We hope you leave today with encouragement, advice for facing similar challenges, and even a perspective shift. After hearing from our guests, we hope they give you the sight beyond sight. Here's our host, Neil Matthews.
Welcome in to Other People's Shoes. As you know, I am your host, Neil Matthews. Thank you so much for joining me today. Really excited you've chosen to stop by. The Shoe Shack heat is on, by the way. I'm sitting here right now, a little bit chilly. The hoodie is on. I wish there was something here to maybe warm me up, and it maybe got me thinking about being warmed up. You know, I'm a big baseball fan, used to be, and I just remember the days of old watching baseball on TV, and the pitcher would be in the bullpen, and he'd be warming up. There'd be things like that. And baseball was one of those things that I would even call it my first love of sports. Then, of course, my brain starts thinking about my first love. And I was actually telling our guests today in the green room that my wife has recently digitized a lot of our videos of old. Videos being the VHS videos. Yeah. In high school, I was in video production. I actually got a letter from, I call them Pride jackets or Letterman jackets. I actually lettered in television, believe it or not. I actually worked for one of our local TV stations. Fun fact. But in that, it was very cringeworthy because 4 months into my relationship with my now wife, Elizabeth, I had made this cringeworthy video, and it's awful. I don't even want to release it to the world. That's just too awful. Nobody wants to see that. I'll tell you what somebody does want to see. If you are in that cringe-worthy moment, or you're trying to maybe figure out that dating scene, thankfully I don't have to, but I know others of you have tried to navigate those shark-infested waters. Luckily for you, I have a good friend here today to really help us. Help me welcome in my new friend, Charity. Charity, how are you today?
Good. Thanks, Neil, for having me on. I'm super excited to be here and chat about love and dating, all the good things.
Now, do you remember elementary school days? Is that a fond memory of yours? Or is that, again, maybe our word of the episode, cringeworthy?
Yeah, there were fun times. I feel like love back on the playground was like, oh, someone's teasing me. That's what you make of love. Yes. Why do you ask? I'm so curious.
I remember the day, because I grew up in the 80s, early 90s, where you could pick and choose who you gave Valentine's to on Valentine's Day. And I do remember there were a couple of kids that didn't get Valentine's from any of the kids in class, because we would make out of construction paper envelope to stick our Valentines in. And again, I grew up in the era that you didn't have to give one to everyone. And there were a couple of years that I remember there were a couple of kids that only got one from the teacher, which I think she gave one to everyone because she had to.
Oh, that's so sad. I don't remember that. I do remember putting the stapling, taping the construction paper on the side of the desk. I do. I feel like you just kind of gave them to everyone. You have the little CVS packet. Everyone got a little card. It was just kind of like the expectation. I don't remember that part. Oh my gosh.
Well, again,
wow, you guys grew up hard.
Maybe we did. We grew up hard. Yeah, absolutely. We did. I think we did. We're malformed kids, some would say. The thing that I do remember like clearly, vividly, is there was a couple of kids, as I said, that didn't get one. And I just remember thinking to myself, why didn't they get one? Why didn't I give them one? That kind of fading thought. And then I, of course, went on to like kickball or wall ball or whatever we were playing at the time. Yeah, I've always wondered, was I alone in that? And I'm sounding more and more, I may have been. Maybe we just had a really hard school, or our teacher didn't make us. Who knows? I don't know. Charity, help us with this. What style of shoe might we find you in amid this occasion, this love week, Valentine's Day being just 2 days away? What shoes might we find you in as you're making your way and navigating your way through that amazing Boston area?
If I was going on a date with my partner, he was taking me out to dinner or something, I would dress up. I'd have some like pink pumps on. My go-to day to day is these shoes. The brand is called Allbirds. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I have.
They're from New Zealand. Yeah, made with the merino wool. They're super light and they're awesome for travel. So they're like my go-to travel shoe. You can take the inserts out and wash them so they last forever. They're super comfortable. They dry fast if you get them wet. So they're kind of like my all-terrain type of thing. And I love to travel. So that's big for me. I wish I could be a heel girl every day. It's not for me. I'm usually more practical in my shoes.
I like heel girl. That's good. I like that. Brings me back to the Tar Heels that I love so much from North Carolina. See, she brought it up, guys. I didn't bring it up. She brought up the heels. I didn't bring them up. That's the heels you're probably not referring to, I'm sure. Well, help us with this. When you heard about us talking about this idea of an X-ray, this idea of hidden damage or unseen maybe to the eyes, what did that do for you? And what did that maybe spark in you as far as this conversation?
Yes, I love this theme. And it made me think of actually two things. So the first is in my book that just came out, We're All Dating the Same Guy. I talk about essentially finding out about my ex-fiance who essentially was living a double life. He had another girlfriend. Soon to come out, he had multiple girlfriends. And so I ended up calling off the wedding. That whole story, he was a narcissist. Kind of understanding the manipulation tactics around that, the life that he was living that I was not privy to at all, is sort of one component of how I think about the X-ray concept and what happened to my life, calling off my wedding and whatever else and the drama there. Yeah, that was quite it felt like I was living in a sitcom. The other part is the aftermath. And that's mostly what I write about within my book is like, okay, well, how do you date someone after being in a toxic relationship? How does that impact you? And like, what are the subtle things or subconscious things that you're doing that you don't even realize because of your past relationship? And how is that coming up? And sometimes it surprises you. That has been a personal journey for me the past couple of years out and dating again. And how do these things show up? It's in mistrust. It's in maybe asking more critical questions or panic attacks and really serious, situations. So those were kind of the two themes that I thought about when I thought about X-ray and how is it different than perceived? There's so many different ways that I could go with it.
Well, first off, I really like that. The hard part for me in these moments with you specifically is I haven't thought about dating truly since high school. That's the last time I had, we'll call it dating game, how else to categorize that. Going back to the videos like I was talking about in our intro and even in our green room, my wife made the comment. She said, I bet you made these type of videos for every girl that you dated. And I was like, no. No, I didn't. And she said, no, I'm sure you did. I dated a few more people than my wife did. Okay, I'll just put it out there. I dated a lot of girls in middle school. Now dating, let's be clear. It was like a couple of weeks. It was a couple of months. When I got into high school, I dated a girl before my wife for like 2 years. All right. I dated some people. But my point is, that was in 1997. That was 1998. That was 1999. Last time I checked, we're in 2025. Dating looks a lot different than it did back then. Now we have the internet. We have things like Tinder. Is that it? I don't even know. If I was single nowadays, how would I go find somebody in your mind to start dating?
The game has completely changed in terms of online dating. And now people are exclusively going towards that. And it's crazy because I watch my cousin who's online dating in college is like the easiest place to meet people with other folks that are all the same age as you. You're doing social activities together. And even there, when you're put in real life with other folks, you're still using it. So it's something that you have to accept and work with. What I've realized, I actually do data analytics for a living. So I got like super crazy with the online dating and like optimizing. I was tracking everything in Excel spreadsheet. I'm like, look, how can I be efficient with my time here? I went on like 100, 200 dates and came up with what I thought was like the best way to do it. Obviously, there are multiple different apps you can go on. Tinder, it's known as the hookup app. Bumble, their main slogan is, I'm saying this, Neil, so you get sort of, you know what's going on. So you're
I guess that's what I'm saying is like, I don't know the other side of the coin, right? I don't know the other side of the pillow. Yeah. I feel like I'm in the minority right now. I do have friends. I mean, I have a sibling even that is single, but I have other friends who have maybe ended a marriage or ended a relationship. I'm glad that we got to connect. I don't know this world, and I think you bring that fresh perspective. So I'm leaning heavily into your spreadsheets, your analytics, your things that you've discovered. So maybe it can hopefully help somebody understand to navigate these, and again laughingly say, but maybe not inaccurate, these shark infested waters.
Yeah. Oh, I got you. So I'll just give you the lay of the land so you understand like what are the main ones at least. So Bumble is, since there were so many men contacting women on here, like, hey, let's go on a date. Women were feeling overwhelmed. So Bumble is an app where the woman has to reach out to the guy first. And then there's Hinge. Those are kind of the main ones. When I was looking at, the first question is, what dating app do I use? I looked at a stat that was like 30% of the people that are using Tinder are like in relationships already. So I was like, all right, that's like way too high of a percentage for cheating and whatever else. I don't even want to go there. So I focused on Bumble and Hinge. And even that was a ton. And I was getting overwhelmed. I was going on so many dates. I was chatting with this guy and being like, oh, so tell me about Israel. You went on that cool trip. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, oh my God, I just messed up the different guy because I forgot. It can get really overwhelming. There's this concept in economics called the Pareto principle. And it's basically 20% of the cause impacts 80% of the effects. So for instance, how you would apply this is in business is you have 20% of the clients that are giving you 80% of the revenue, or women with their wardrobes, they were 20% of their wardrobe. So this is kind of like a natural distribution that economists have found. Does this exist within online dating? So I was looking at 20% of conversations that give me 80% of the dates. And it turned out that Hinge was way more efficient. And Bumble, because you have to make the first move and chat with the guy, it was putting all the onus on obviously the woman to go ahead and chat and whatever, and you just get lost in conversation. It would never go anywhere. So that was kind of one of the benefits that I saw. Like, okay, I can get more efficient, like concentrate on one app. And then there are a bunch of different hacks once you get into the app. And another thing that I was looking at too was, okay, well, if I look at like holistically, where am I meeting men or having connections with people? I looked at what are the folks that I met online versus the folks that I met just organically within the real world. I realized that the majority, like, I was doing stuff. I was actually out doing the things that I liked, putting out an energy that people were interested in, as opposed to sitting down with someone talking about what you want to do or what you like to do. It's a different energy. I found technology and online dating to be a good amplifier to the life that you already want to live. And so I prioritize going out with my girlfriends, snowboarding, going dancing, going to concerts. Those are things that I love to do. And I just organically met people that way. I'm a pretty chatty person too. So those were kind of how I approached online dating. There are a lot of different hacks once you get into that I write about within sort of the funnel that I talk about. It's a crazy world out there. And of course, like, you've heard of the concept ghosting.
Yes, I even take it to the podcasting arena because I've been ghosted a few times on the show. So yes.
Yeah. So it's not fun, Neil, right? It hurts your feelings. And one time, some folks are so not in touch that it's kind of sad. Like, I got ghosted in person. I was on the date with the guy and he had been talking about his ex the whole time. At one point, his mom calls on the phone and he like takes a minute to go somewhere else. And then he comes back and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I was just chatting with my mom. I guess my ex wrote something bad online about our family. And I'm like, oh my God, red flags everywhere. Like, this guy's not ready to date. So I tell him like, look, I'm just feeling more of a friend vibe here. Let's just enjoy the concert. And like, I think you still have a lot going on. And instead of being like, yeah, you're right. Like, let's just enjoy the night. I like turn back to watch the concert and I just see like this dart in my periphery, and he had just left the concert without saying bye or anything. I was like, oh my God, this is wild. I got ghosted in person.
I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to come back from this is a rarity. I don't know how to come back from that.
Yeah, it's crazy out there.
I really hope I go before Elizabeth. And here's why. I don't want to start all over. Again, my 1997, 98, 99 dating game, I think would scare the living bejesus out of people. Because I care. Because I send flowers. I wrote poetry. I did creative things. I made mixtapes. I burned CDs. I did all the things that I saw on TV people doing. That was my dating example. I watched 90210 faithfully. Brandon Walsh was my role model in dating. So whatever he did, I tried to mimic. And I know that's not a great, maybe role model. That's how I was formed in my dating life. Probably the worst dating story ever. I had a cross necklace that I used to wear that had leather on it. And my sister told me girls like things that smell like boys' cologne. So I doused the necklace in Old Spice. I didn't know any better, and I didn't wear cologne. My dad did. Well, the thing about leather is it absorbs liquid, as most folks know. So when I give it to the girl, it is just, I'm sure, drenched in Old Spice. And she's like, wow, this smells like my dad. And I'm like, sweet, she loves her dad. But you know what I mean? That's the dating advice I have to go on to pull back from the filing cabinet of the dating. Like, okay, what do I do in this moment? I would be a wreck. So I stand by my statement. I hope I go first because I don't want to start over again. So I guess that's what I'm asking. What in your mind is the greatest, maybe gravest, and sin may be a loosely used word. What's the greatest mistake do you feel like you've made and maybe other ladies are making?
That's such a good question. I think the biggest mistake is not having an honest conversation. We so want to be the cool girl, or at least I did, that didn't care and was carefree and want a guy who's attracted to that and your own independent lady and you have your own career. And in dating, there should be a clear on-ramp when you start dating. The velocity of how often you see each other, how often you're talking should increase. And if you feel like you're going along for a month, it's been awesome, but then you're getting breadcrumbed and you don't know whether he's going to reach out again or whatever else, that's the moment in which, one, it feels crappy. You need to reset with yourself and have an honest conversation and be vulnerable and open to like having that conversation. So I think a lot of the times we're afraid to be open and honest about like, hey, where is this going? And if you are really passionate or adamant about having a boyfriend, having an exclusive relationship, you want a long-term relationship, that's cool. Honest, then go for it and talk about it. So if you've been dating for 2 months and there has been no conversation about like, what do you want? Part of that is on you too. You're getting dragged along. Everyone's expectations are different too. So it's just good to level set on some of those things. I think that's one of them is having a conversation. And another one too is just sex before having a label of exclusivity. I think that's one. And there's actually a study that confirms that one of the hormones, oxytocin, it's called the love hormone. It's released more in women than men when they have sex. So the woman is more bonded to the man. And so there's a chemical thing that's happening there, in addition, obviously, to just like the emotional dynamics. If you're setting yourself up that way without having exclusivity talk or whatever else, maybe there's some people that can do casual. I tried to think I could. I didn't. I wasn't quote unquote cool enough. So maybe there are folks that can do it. I just couldn't. Knowing yourself and knowing if that's something you can do or not. If it's not, then that's cool. That's cool too. Someone who will respect your boundaries and is emotionally responsive is going to be okay with that. If they really like you, they're going to be willing to wait. I think that's probably a big one as well.
When would you introduce children into it? Do you have any experience with that? Is there good and bad timing on that? Because again, I would imagine in this day and age, most people probably have a kid or have two or whatever. And so how do you integrate your kids into your dating relationship?
That's a really good question. When I was dating, I did not have kids, so it made it easier. I do have friends that do. And I think everyone has a different timeline or stipulations. I know some people that are like, look, we have to be together for like a year before they're even going to meet my child, whereas other folks will do it a lot sooner. I don't have hard and fast advice on that in particular. I would say the minute that you bring that figure into their life, whether you think it or not, they will be seen, especially if they're living within the house. You're not married. It doesn't matter. They're still the stepdad figure, the whatever figure, even if your expectation is not that of them. So think about that carefully as you bring them into that dynamic and who do you want around your kids. I think sometimes we're so excited with the relationship, we don't necessarily think about those components. But yeah, I don't have a fast rule around that, Neil.
I'm thinking, Elizabeth, in this weird morbid scenario. She's passed on. Now have an 18-year-old daughter, which isn't that big of a deal. It's not like a littler kid. I don't think that would be as big of a deal because at this point, my daughter would be an adult. She's like, well, Dad, you go make your adult decisions. I'm going to make mine. It just seems like when you bring, again, kids into the equation, does it add another element to it as you're talking about? Does it add another dynamic? Does it hurt the relationship? Do you know that from friends? Have they said, once I brought my kid into it, things changed in the relationship dynamic?
I mean, people have to be bought in from the start. Another thing, if you were dating for 6 months and then you were like, by the way, I have a kid. So yeah, that would be a little scary. So if they're bought in from the start or know your family situation, if you have kids, there shouldn't be any surprises there. And really it's around alignment. What do you guys want together? Is this something that's casual? Is it not? And having that conversation and being upfront. And some people that will never bring a guy around their kids, and that's just how they are. So it depends how comfortable you are and also where the relationship is, where the momentum is in the relationship too. Is it a pattern? Is it a pattern where you've been bringing around multiple people or not? That's not healthy for the kids either.
Now, we just came out of Christmas a couple of months back. And lo and behold, my wife every Christmas makes me sit down and watch at least 20 Hallmark movies. And they all feel exactly the same. Just for everyone wondering, the town did get saved. The cookie store did thrive. Gal from the big city did marry small town boy. They were high school sweethearts. They reconnected again. It was amazing. Do you think media, specifically television, specifically Hallmark, is wrecking dating and relationships for folks that are in this kind of quandary of dating?
Yes, that's a good question. And it's something I write about in my book because it's not like something we sit down as adults and watch a rom-com and we're like, oh my God, I would love to get swept off my feet. No. These are like movies that 7-year-olds are watching, like Cinderella or Ariel or whatever. We're getting influenced by Disney about what a relationship should be and what the expectations are around Prince Charming coming in and sweeping you off your feet to rescue you. Who needs to be rescued? Talk about this change of going from this princess identity to a queen identity. The princess is looking to be saved. The queen is looking out for her kingdom, has agency over her decisions. The princess is looking to other people to make some of those decisions for her. I think we don't realize that's a subconscious blueprint that's running, I think, in all of our lives. And it's just repeated in some of the rom-coms that we see, but it starts so young. I think now people are catching on to it and creating some movies that are a bit more realistic, created an unrealistic expectation for what to expect in a relationship. I think that's part of how I fell into the toxic relationship that I did. One of the traits of dating a narcissist is they're so charismatic. They have a sixth sense. They know how to woo you in. They're love bombing you. They're telling you everything. And you're like, oh my God, this man's amazing. He makes me feel amazing. And so you fall into the trap instead of being like, something feels off here. Like there should be a little bit more time before we get to this stage. And after a while, especially after getting out of that relationship, I was like, some of the things that I thought were super attractive and the charisma and bring someone out and having them be an amazing talker and being the center of attention and having them be so fun at parties, that was not what I was looking for anymore. I was like, I want someone who's consistent, who's kind, who's attentive to me. Those are different than some of the other things that maybe are played up in rom-coms. I will say a nice little poem, like you were saying, or in a nice little video once you're dating is also very nice, Neil. You're a nice artist and you're creative. And so those things are nice when you're in a relationship, and it feels nice to be loved too and give.
That's all I know. My love language is creativity. Well, that's the hard part for me is, again, I feel like if I was going to start dating, again, in this scenario, weird as it is, as I keep reiterating, Elizabeth is gone, I think I would scare girls off for that very reason. I am very creative because I like to do creative things that I think, man, this is charismatic. This is awesome. This is all the things that I think that I would do again. And the pushback on that is somebody asked me recently, well, that's awesome that you would do that again if you had to start over again. You have that in your toolbox, basically, to pull from. Why aren't you doing that now?
Ooh.
And I'm like, that's not fair. That's not okay. What intrigued me most about your title is we're all dating the same guy. What does that mean? I don't know, because I'm just being candid here again. I've never dated a guy, so I don't know what that looks like. But what I'm trying to say is I look around at the guys in my life, speaking of me being creative. None of my friends are as, we'll say, uniquely quirky, romantic-y, I'm making up words now, as I am. I don't hear of too many of my buddies telling their wife in a video fashion or a podcast episode how much they love their wife. I don't hear of my friends writing poetry to their wives or leaving little notes around the house for their wife. So that's why I'm wondering, how am I different than those guys that are out there maybe?
Well, I think you're such a romantic, and I do think that some of your stuff would still land. And it's more about, we're still humans. Some of those things still work. And it's more about, at that point, words and actions, and do those things line up, Neil? And so if you were to go out and do those things again, and you were so authentic and genuine about it, like, it would land. People would get that. You're doing it from a place where you're just trying to get someone or whatever else, then that's a different story. Anyways, but onto the title, we're all dating the same guy. Yes, of course, there's diversity and there's difference. The meaning for me has multiple meanings actually for this book. The first one is kind of the literal interpretation of, oh my God, I just found out that me and 3 other women are dating this guy. The second one is I write about dating afterwards and dating different types of men, the artistic guy, the financial guy, the entrepreneur, hoping that even though it's not the same person necessarily, that these stories are relatable to other women and they can relate to the learnings that I had through them. That's another meaning. And then the third, which I don't know if you're privy to, is there's a Facebook group out there that's called Are We Dating the Same Guy? And it's intentioned to essentially protect women from online dating if they find that there is a guy that's dating multiple women, has a girlfriend, is on the online dating scenes. It's kind of a bit of a response to that, bit of a snarky response to that group that, yeah, we are in some ways. That's kind of the triple entendre that I had with the title.
I was wondering about the Facebook group. When I was doing a little bit of research on you, I did discover that group. Now, granted, I didn't go join that group. Just to be clear, I did not. I did see that. I thought, is that a connection to you? I wasn't sure, so I'm glad you clarified that for us. How did you start when you're talking about marriage and you're talking about walking down that aisle? Marriage to me is the most sacred thing I think has ever been created. I'm a big fan of marriage. I think when it's right, everyone should do it. I've DJ'd a number of weddings. I've officiated a few weddings. I love weddings. And maybe that's, again, where I'm a different dude than most, because I love everything about the wedding. I don't love the stress of it. Okay, I don't love that. The ambiance, the romance, the wedding, the dress, the guys. And maybe that's why I love DJing so much, is I love to be able to set that scene and that mood and provide that musical kind of background for folks in their greatest day ever. Think about that. I wonder about that for you. How did you kind of reset your life after this? And maybe I'm over dramatizing it, and if I am, you can correct me, but how did you reset after this horrific kind of unveiling?
Yeah, it was a crazy reset. And also, I will say, I love weddings too. I used to cater for them and be like a little waitress, bring your own food. And I love the speeches. The speeches were so fun to listen to, and everyone's pouring their heart out. So I'm a big fan as well. I called off my wedding a month before it was set to happen. Invitations were out. Everyone was set to come. Vendors were booked. Really changed, I think, my perception was my mom was battling pancreatic cancer at that time. For me, it gave me a lot of perspective around life or death, as opposed to just breaking up with this person. And I still threw a party for my half of the wedding. Called it a party of new beginnings. Everyone dressed in lemon stuff. We're making lemonade. And it was a big moment, mostly because my mom was dying and she ended up passing away 6 months later. So that I talk about in the book, and it really played into how we were both going through this journey of heartbreak a little bit together, how I was kind of moving through it with her. It makes me sad to think about now, how that motivated me to keep living. So she passed away when she was 67. I was early 30s when this whole thing happened to me. So I was like, damn, if this is when I'm going to go, judging by her lifespan, my life's halfway over. I got to get to it. And so I think she inspired me in a lot of ways to get out there and try again and to love again. And so that was a really beautiful, I think, part of this process. And of course, a lot of trauma happening at the same time, processing both of those things. I just it all came off after that. And I just didn't give a crap about a lot of things that I used to. And it was the most authentic version of me. And so when I went back out to date again, I kind of went out with an intention of just enjoying myself and enjoying life. Of course, I wanted to find someone else. I think that yearning to be with someone, to be with a partner that amplifies your life. I totally agree. If you can find a partner for life that is amplifying all the experiences and emotions that you have, wow, what an amazing thing marriage can be. So I never lost hope in that part. I just went for it. So that inspired, I think, a lot of how I pulled myself back up and kept dating afterwards. I will say my shift in my perception of, do I need marriage in order to have that relationship, has changed. I don't know if I feel so required to have the marriage thing, as opposed to, could I just live my life with this other person and we just commit ourselves to each other? So I don't know, maybe that's something I still need to work through. It has impacted me in certain ways. I'm like, oh, do I need the marriage? So I think really the life and death inspired, like, whoa, man, I'm still living. I got to get to it. But my mom is my mom.
Well, first off, I want to acknowledge your mom. And it sounds like she raised an amazing young woman. And it sounds like you got a lot from her. And that's special. It's very special to share. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. Last question, then we're going to play our game. How would you define love?
Oh, gosh, this is a big one with Valentine's Day. Love is an energy. Love is a sense of peace. And love can be with yourself. It can be with God. It can be with your spiritual connection or sense or whatever you believe in. And it can be with your connection to other people. So I think if you're single this Valentine's Day and you're bumming, like, hang out with your friends or sit in a tub with candles and your favorite music and give yourself some love. There's so many ways to experience love that aren't focused on finding someone else. So yeah, love's an energy and it's everywhere. And if you focus on it.
Wait, hold on. I got to ask one more.
Okay.
Does love fail in your mind? Not anyone else's, in your mind. Does love fail?
Never. It never does. And I think with my last relationship, I realized what I have wasn't love. And you can still love someone, not be with them or whatever else. I think there are multiple ways to feel love that don't necessarily require you to be with a person. So
Love
that was a good question.
Love that too. Charity, how can folks connect with you if they want to know more about you, not want to get a copy of the book? What are those processes? Where do you love to hang out on social? We love to ask that, and then we'll play our game.
Yes, you can check out the book on Amazon. We're all dating the same guy. Pick up a copy there. Also, if you go to my website, I have a special gift for you all. Same Guy book /podcast. You can check that out. And then I'm also on TikTok and Instagram under We're All Dating the Same Guy and Charity Sinclair. Any of those things, would love to hear from you and hope you enjoy the read.
All right, Charity, here is our game. It's called Heal Hustle. So I'll let Zach take it away. Zach?
It's now that time in the show to play the fastest growing game in the podcast world. We call it Heal Hustle. Today our guest will try to answer all 6 of these questions in 60 seconds or less to win an Amazon gift card. Amazon not responsible for this commercial spot, nor did they pay to let us use their name. Audience, feel free to play at home. Are you ready? Let's put 60 seconds on that clock. Ready, set, hustle!
The game begins in 3, 2,
All right, Charity, one person you would trade places with for a week. One person you would trade places with for a week.
Oh, boy. Jennifer Aniston or like the Dalai Lama.
Nice. Guilty pleasure.
Sleeping in now that I have a 10-month-old.
Nice. Best compliment you ever received.
A nurse told me I had a very low resting heart rate, like an athlete, and I thought that was pretty nice.
That's nice. Worst piece of advice ever.
Play it safe.
What is something you wish you were better at?
I wish I had more of an artsy side, creative side. I do data analytics, so
Nice.
yeah.
What is something that never fails to make you laugh? Hurry.
Ooh, memoirs by comedians, I think. I love them, and that's partly why I wrote mine.
Just at the buzzer. Well, Charity, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate the insight that you gave. I really love what you shared. I'm always leery to walk into these arenas that I feel so ill-equipped to talk about. I really feel like you helped make me feel comfortable. Hopefully we did the same. But again, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate you.
You did. Thank you so much, and I hope you have an awesome Valentine's Day with your wife.
All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike, that is it. That is all. That is our show today. Now listen, I shamefully am admitting this. I've been watching a sitcom called The American Housewife. And in one of the episodes, Greg, the husband, does all these Valentine's Day things, and Katie, the housewife, the mom, she's like, stop making these elaborate things. And the whole time we're watching this, I'm like watching Elizabeth because I'm Greg in the episode. Like, that's me. I'm the grand gesture. I'm the thing. I'm the stuffed animals falling out of the car. I'm the confetti cannon coming from the sky. That's me. That's not Elizabeth, by the way. If you're wondering. It's interesting something that our guest said today. Did you hear it? Did you catch it? Stop being the princess and become the queen. How does one become the queen? That's a question I'd like you to ponder this week. How do you become a queen? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that taste like? If you're wondering about that too, or if that just is something that's just going to kind of be heard and then like forgotten about, let's hope not. Do something about that. Let me know what you think on that too. I'd love to hear. You can let us know at opspodcast.com. It's a great place to let us know. You can also let us know on the socials at OPS Podcast Show under Facebook, Instagram, and X. And don't forget this when we go, please, don't ever forget this. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do gain a different perspective on life. I appreciate you being here. Stay tuned till next week when we walk in other people's shoes.